Okay, so one of the funnest things about being a cinematographer is the eternal lifelong quest of discovering and researching new technology and products that are coming out that can help us better understand and complete the vision that we have in our heads, in the heads of our teams. Now, you quickly figure out as a cinematographer that the camera is only one tool that you need. There's a whole smorgasbord of other things out there that make a big difference. And two of my favorites are the Dana Dolly and the gimbal. Now, I recently did a video where I showed you how to combine a Dana Dolly and a gimbal together. Check out my video if you're interested in seeing how that works. And I was really excited to combine these two systems that I love so much. Now, while I love the flexibility that these two systems combined gave me, it still required a bit of manpower to really make it work and do it well. That is, until now. You see, I was just reached out to because of that video by a company named eMOTIMO, and they wanted me to check out a product called the SA2.6. And that is what this thing does. This thing takes your Dana Dolly, it takes your gimbal, and it allows them to talk together. It's a motorized system that really is designed to maximize the power of these two systems when it's used together. Now, full disclosure on this, eMOTIMO did reach out to me. I am not being paid anything for this production. I don't even get to keep the model. They literally just asked me if I would be interested in beta testing this for them and let them know what I thought about it, any strengths and weaknesses of the systems. Now, that being said, I have gotten a chance to play with this now for about 2 weeks, and I'll be honest, I'm actually really excited about this system. And it's something that I think if you're out there a shooter, you're probably going to want to be made aware of, because this is something that I think could really help and up your game if you're out there shooting. Now, one thing about the SA2.6 is that it's basically a way to automate your Dana Dolly, and this thing works really well. Even in this beta version, it is silk smooth and gets you some really professional looking shot. This thing is a rock solid system because it's taking the proven technology and smoothness of the Dana Dolly with the gimbal and letting you unlock the whole system. Now, this essentially is the SA2.6. This is the brain of the system. You can see it is very small. It is very intuitive. It's got a little thumbstick here that you can go and control it. You can just have a little piece of Velcro here and pop that right here on your shuttle dolly. So it takes up no space. It can literally live on your Dana Dolly shuttle, and you can pack it up in a small Pelican case and be pretty good to go. So the way this whole system sets up is actually really simple and not very hard to set up. You essentially have the brain of it, which is the SA2.6, and you can connect it here to a motor that comes from eMOTIMO. Now, the best thing about this motor is it literally attaches to the Dana Dolly shuttle. It kind of lives as part of your Dana Dolly. And then you just take a belt that they give you, and you can attach that belt on each end of the Dana Dolly. And that is pretty much what it takes to set it up. It is not a super complicated thing to set up. And I don't want to spend time in the video today setting this up. Today what I want to do is I want to talk about the system and why I think if you're a shooter it might be interested. I am planning on doing a follow-up video on this where I do a setup of the system. If that's something you want to see, make sure you leave me some notes in the comments down below. Just know that when you get this system, the first time you set it up, it's going to take a couple of minutes to set it up. Just set yourself about an hour or so to get it all set up and you'll do it. But the good thing is, once you kind of have figured it out, it really only takes about 5 to 6 minutes to get the whole system set up. So that's one thing that's really important to me. If I go on a set, I don't care how great a system is. Is it going to take me too long to set it up? I just don't have time, or I don't want to worry about it on a set. I'm not going to do it. And this kind of covers that area of being super simple and very intuitive to just get set up. And then once you have it set it up, you control it with a PlayStation controller, and it is super intuitive. I think just about anyone can pick this up once they get it all put together and be operating this thing in probably less than a minute, because it's very simple and easy to follow. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, there actually are 2 power options with controlling this. You can power this straight into a DC port, which is not hard, but they also have a D-tap cable. So if you want to have like a V-mount mounted on your shuttle like I have here, you could mount this right there on a D-tap and kind of let it go all day. I didn't find the cable management to be that hard once I got this thing set up, but it is nice to have that double power option if you want to shoot with a system like this. Now, as far as actually going with it, it's really easy, and I really like how simple it is. Now, they do have this connector right here that connects to your RS3. Now, my understanding is you can do this on an RS3, an RS3 Pro, or a DJI RS2. So you have a whole range of gimbals you can click this up with, which is really nice because if you have that equipment, you've already invested with it, now you can motorize it, and you're not having to spend thousands of dollars on stuff. So now when you come in and set up the shot, you can see I can kind of set up the horizontal here with one joystick of the PlayStation. With the other one, because I have my RS3 here, I can control pan and I can control tilt, which is great because what this means is I can center on something and have dollies that give me parallax. This is something that is extremely important if you're doing interviews, very, very good for product stuff, and honestly, just having that flexibility for whatever you want. Let's say you want to move that starts pointed up, you dolly over and you're pointing down, you can easily do that. But so as you can see, basically you'll come here, you'll set your first point, you'll hit X, I'll come back to my second point. Let's say I want to end up back over here for whatever reason. I can do that. Once I get to the point that I think is a good point, I'll go ahead, I will pan back over here, and just for the heck of it, let's say I want to do a tilt like that. I'll select that, and then it's going to ask me, do I want to go? I'll say yes, and you will sit here and see it does a nice, really gentle ramp up, and then this thing just kind of goes to the races. And what I like about this is not only can you get the motion set up, you can control the amount of time. It's very, very smooth. You can set it up very, very easy, and this thing will just run on a continuous loop all day long. Now, what's really good about this is if, say, you have an interview, you don't have to worry about this thing hitting points or hitting the weird points because it's going to come in and do a very nice slow ramp in and a nice ramp out. It's very, very gentle. That means that if you're doing any kind of automated things like this, you know you always have safety. You can cut in at any point and it's always going to be a smooth movement. I've had problems with motorized things in the past where the ramp might get a little squirrely or weird at the end, and I just can't use that part of the slider. And sometimes that's exactly when you want to go to your wide shot that you had on the slider. So this, for me, if you want to do interviews, if you're interested in it, this is something that's really, really an important feature to have. And of course, needless to say, you can use a little controller that comes on the box, but having this PlayStation controller, I think most of you out there, this is going to be a very intuitive and simple thing to do. And it's just fun. It's just, you can go out there and set this thing up in just a couple of seconds. Once this thing's set up, it literally takes seconds. You saw how long it took to get that up to get the shot. Now, one fun thing about this is they have a lot of different modes on there, but I think the ones that most of you are going to be interested in is called the Interview Monster. And they actually have the Interview Monster and they have the Interview Monster Advanced. Now, the biggest difference between the Advanced and the Interview Monster, the Interview Monster is basically for getting far as you can. You basically set your endpoints and it has an algorithm in there that has dictated what the most pleasing rate of speed is on the move. But if you're someone like me that likes to have a little more control, in the Advanced, you can go and start setting in exactly how long those things go. So you can control the speed. So it really gives you a ton of control. The motors are very, very quiet. I have not had any trouble whatsoever with this affecting the sound or the noise. I was just playing it. I'm right beside my lavalier mic. You should have been able to hear if it causes any problem. And let's be honest, if you're ever actually using this for real, you're never ever going to have this thing that close to a client. So realistically, real-world situation, the motor is quiet and it shouldn't really ever interfere with what you're doing when you're shooting an interview. And really the thing that has left me the most impressed is combining this Dana Dolly with this gimbal. It's just given me such really beautiful, smooth, wonderful shots. I mean, it's really, really silky and smooth. You don't have to go to 60 frames a second or slow motion. This thing at 24 frames a second will give you nice, pretty, beautiful work. Okay, now there's one other aspect whenever you're talking about a motorized system like this that you have to bring up, and that is, can it do FX work? And I did talk to Bryan over at eMOTIMO, and one thing they did want to make sure they emphasized about the SA2.6, this is not a VFX type of motor. It's designed for narrative and for interview type setups. However, that being said, if you do a wide lens, you can probably get away with some basic compositing. And they said it's not completely rigid enough to do real complex stuff, but if you have a simple shot that you want to pull off, you can probably kind of pull it off and sneak it. And this is actually a really useful thing because I think a lot of you out there, if you find yourself maybe needing like a basic composite type shot, you don't necessarily need to go out and get a $4,000 rig. And it's nice just knowing that you can maybe pull something off with a system that already involves all the stuff that you already have baked into your kit. Now, as you're kind of looking at a system like this, I think the one thing that'll really come up is where would you use a system like this? Like, how does it play into your workflow? And I think the most obvious is obviously going to be in advanced interview setups. Now, this gives you a combination that gives you a really, really professional and, more importantly, a reliable interview option that adds a lot of dynamicism to your interview shots. If you're out there and you're getting bigger clients and you want to justify your cost and why you're separating from the field, this is one of those things that will really add a lot of value to those interview shots. And as I've touched on earlier, this thing is not only dynamic, it is much, much more reliable and consistent than any other system I have personally worked on. I really don't like using automated systems specifically because they burn me and I can't rely on them to do that. I've used this and seen no problem whatsoever. It has not given me even a single glitch. Now, another area I've actually found this really useful for is not just an interview, but it's actually in a lot of the narrative shooting that I did. And you might not think it, but this thing saves a lot of time on set, especially if you're doing narrative work. So if I have a situation where I have an actor hitting a mark and coming over there and I need to get a very dynamic shot, well, I'm relying in a shoot on the human element of, let's say I'm doing a dolly and I'm panning and tilting up to get the shot. That's a human element. And there's a lot of times what will happen is the human operator will have some error in the shot. What this allows me to do is to take that human error out of the situation. And this really allows me, when I'm doing narrative work, to kill exactly the shot. I know mechanically the shot will be perfect every time. And that saves frustrations for your actors a lot, because it can be frustrating for an actor to deliver a performance and they have to reset because the camera operator missed a mark or did something that. This totally fixes that. And I really think this is one of those things that's going to be used more and more for me on my narrative field as well, just because it is so consistent and reliable. Well, now that I've got this thing up and running, I might as well talk about some cons to the system, because no system is perfect. And I always like to go, and anytime we're reviewing a system, I'd like to talk about anything you need to be aware about if you're thinking about potentially purchasing a system like this. Now, the first thing I would say, the system honestly is really, really rock solid and reliable. Even in this beta version, I've been very, very happy with the results I've been getting from it. That being said, this is not a system you're going to open up a box and be instantly ready to go. There is some setup time the first time you set it up. So I would say if you're getting a system like this, you need to go ahead and give yourself a day just where you're there, you're not on set, and you're putting it together and figuring it out. I was able to put this thing completely together by myself. It took about 20-25 minutes the first time I did it, and that was with almost no instruction. So it's pretty logical to come together, but it's not something you're going to want to do on a set. And the only other thing I would talk about this system, it is very simple, it is very intuitive, but I am still using a beta system. And I did find that the navigation on the SA2.6 is very, very easy to use, but it can be just a hair clunky to get back and forth between menus. I did talk to them over at eMOTIMO. They did tell me this is something that will be fixed on a firmware update, so I'm sure that's going to be done. But that's really the big things that I would say about this. But for the most part, I was just blown away by the fact that I could take a system like this and then it just worked so flawlessly out of the box. So if you are one of those people out there that's been looking for visual inspiration and trying to find ways to add another layer to your game, I think this eMOTIMO SA2.6 is something that could really, really get you excited, especially because it combines the tried and true technologies of a Dana Dolly and a gimbal, which is something that a lot of you already own or have access to, and just you can add on and just really, really make a whole nother level to the game. And it's really, really exciting to see where it's going, and I can't wait to see this once it's out of the beta version and actually gets out there. Anyway, guys, I'd love to hear what you had to say with this. Leave me any notes and comments down below, and yeah, go out there, keep on shooting, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon.